So the Fleet's History project is definitely our largest data release since we started ch-aviation Pro in 2012. It's the first time we're adding a historical dimension to our aircraft data, as you can now clearly see how an airline's fleet developed over time, or how certain aircraft types became more and more popular in the usage than the others. And to be honest, it's also what our users asked for the most, actually for a very long time already. Must have been years, and it's literally the missing piece, and it complements very, very well with the other fleet data that we have, like engine, aircraft ownership, or utilization data. And just to put it into perspective, we've added this historical dimension for more than 44,000 aircraft.
We knew for a while now that not having the historical dimension in our database is a big stepping stone for many of our customers. But it took us some time to come up with a plan and to build up the team that will be able to deliver the historical dimension to ch-aviation Pro. Just imagine sitting in front of a blank sheet of Excel and starting to rebuild the aircraft history. The thought of doing it is fun, but the size of the project is terrifying. Obviously, we did not foresee the COVID-19 effect and the changes back then either. So, after about a month into the project, we had to admit we will never finish the project with the agreed work scope. And the decision has been made to build a full history for aircraft that are operational, and for all the other ones to introduce the aircraft history as of the year 2000.
Possibilities for fleet analysis are now literally endless. You can, for example, precisely analyze the output of the Airbus A320ceo production line and see when the production peaked and when it started to decline, because it shifted over to the A320neo, right? And another thing is that you can see how the fleet of an airline grew over time. And not only that, you can also see how much they grew with factory new aircraft versus, let's say, used market ones. What I personally like the most in regards of new features is how easy and intuitive our fleet development graphs are. It's very easy to filter for specific types. So, for example, here this airline switched from a Boeing to an Airbus fleet, and you can clearly see on the graphs how they were phasing out the Boeings, and you can determine the transition point when they started to operate an Airbus-only fleet. So this is really cool.
We have assigned researchers to rebuild history for every single frame, depending on the current status of the aircraft. The ones with an operator get full history rebuilt, and the others, the inactive ones, get history as of the year 2000. At the almost very end of the research process, we have introduced the quality assurance to the data. You have to understand, over the past 5 years, we have built an enormous database by adding so many different dimensions to it. And now we are adding one that needs to logically fit into all the others. By now, we have 20 quality assurance reports that are cross-referencing database for any illogical issues just for the aircraft history. And with every weekly upload of the aircraft database, we are checking all of them again. But that is what is important in this business, making sure we keep the data quality.
One thing that is also super cool is that it is possible to travel back in time. So you can just pull an entire fleet snapshot for the past. So if you want to see how global airline fleets looked like, let's say in 2004, you just select the data and then you see it. One thing that I have to warn you about that is, if you're like me, a real F geek, you can easily get carried away in nostalgia. So while I was playing around, I pulled up the fleet for Europe in summer 2004, and then, you know, out of a sudden, I saw a Boeing 727 listed there. I remembered like yesterday how I drove out to Zurich Airport one afternoon in 2004 just to spot that exact aircraft, as it was on some charter rotation there, and the 727s were already super rare in Europe back then. So it was super cool to see that aircraft. And then you know it doesn't stop there, because all of our data sets are so interactive, and we want them to be very interactive, and so you can browse around or further very, very easily. And then you find more aircraft from the past that you either worked on yourself, or in my case, refinanced. And then just look at time, you wonder what happened to the day. So yeah, you have to be a bit careful there.